Hello, and welcome to Rebel Unicorn Crafts. Today, I want to test Blickrylic versus Craftsmart. Typically, when I do a head-to-head test, I do it just with water, but today I really want to try a different technique that involves the funnel and kind of having to flood different things, so I am going to be using a different mixture than my normal one. For this test, I'm going to be using the different paints and adding the same additives and mediums to them so that we are still testing things kind of side by side. So for the Blickrylic, I'm going to be adding in floetrol as well as a little bit of the liquitex pouring medium. In general, for both of these, I'm going to be adding in 1 part paint to 1.5 parts floetrol, then thinning further with water as necessary. And I'm also going to be adding about 1 pipette of the liquitex pouring medium to each of the colors because I want to bump up the cells I'm going to be getting. We'll be testing the Craftsmart on the left side of the screen here and the Blickrylic on the right side of the screen. The technique I'm going to be testing is going to be a funnel pour drag. So I'm going to actually coat each of these in a nice pretty thick layer of white that has that same mixture. Before I do that, please prepare yourself for a jarring jump cut in 3, 2, 1. Oh no, now the Craftsmart one is done. And that is actually because it's not really done. This one that I did not have the liquitex added into it, so I'm gonna need to redo that. So let's start with the Blickrylic one, and then we will move on to retesting the Craftsmart. Getting a nice, thick, even layer of that base white before we start loading up our funnel to dump and drag. I'm trying to compare the same colors across both of these, so I took their fluorescent pink from each one of theirs, their deepest blue, which on Craftsmart is their navy, and for Blickrylic it is their phthalo blue. And then I have a metallic for each of these. I've got the gold one for Craftsmart, and then I have the bronze one for Blickrylic because I don't actually have the gold one on hand. For this, my background layer, the white, is slightly thinner than my other colors, but not by much. And already, yeah, those colors are super vibrant. I am surprised at the fact that they're not a little bit more vibrant than the Craftsmart. The Craftsmart ones actually turned out more vibrant than I had anticipated, but you can see that the blue and the pink are superior. They're darker and they're more pigmented, so I'm wanting to do multiple of the funnel drags, so I'm going to stretch this first drag, torch it a bit, and then fill in some other areas with another drag. And I do really like the cells that are coming up in this one, but the one that's already on the left, even without the liquitex, does already have some of those elements. It's just not quite as pigmented. So let's go ahead and finish off the Blickrylic one, and then we'll get started on the Craftsmart one round 2. For both of these, I did do a little bit of the blowing technique using a straw on some of the harsher edges because I wanted to kind of create a little wispy, feathery feel to it. So I tried to do that on both of these. Now that we've made a nice big mess on both sides of this, yes, I'm going to add in a little bit of the liquitex into each of the colors. It's about probably a half a pipette's worth since I initially put in 1 full pipette, and I've used about half of the colors, so I'm trying to keep it to the same proportion. So it's just a little liquitex. It's about 1.5 milliliters for what is probably about 30 milliliters of that mixture in general. So it's just a tiny bit. I like to add in just a little bit because it typically does enhance some of the cells without them going super crazy. And yeah, I just like adding a little bit to it. Again, let's coat our background in a nice thick and even layer of that white. And I repeated the same thing that I did on the other one, where I would put 1 layer at a time of each of these colors and then lift and drag a little bit And then once I ran out of paint, if I wanted to continue that line, I again repeated that process. I do really love this color scheme, that kind of metallic neutral with the really vibrant pink and then two different blues. I really like that. So far, I do feel like I'm getting a little bit more roundness in the cells, but I don't know how much more I'm getting than my previous test. We'll have to do a comparison of the two Craftsmarts at the very end of this once they're dry. I added on a few more of the funnel pores before tilting a bit and then doing the blowing technique to add some feathering and some kind of nice lacy parts to see if I could actually stretch it out a little bit more and make it blend and kind of flow together, similar to how I got the Blickrylic one looking, just so that we've got a fair comparison. At first I wasn't really getting any of the dark blues on the Craftsmart, and I was wondering if somehow that changed with the liquitex or if I just didn't add in as much, but it is popping up through it, so it's in a different layer than what I put the Blickrylic in, and that's okay because I do like kind of how the dark parts are popping through. Do a final torch of everything, and then we're going to wait for these to dry, and let's review. Before I show you the dried versions, I do want to just say that I was surprised how similar it was to actually work with these two paints. I had expected the Blickrylic to really blow the Craftsmart out of the water, and I don't think that's really what happened here. So let's reevaluate once everything is dry, because maybe there will be more cracks, or maybe there will be some other things that happen in the drying process. Let's start by reviewing the Blickrylic one, and on this one I was expecting those really punchy pigments, the dark blues and that neon pink, because in the pouring they seem like they were so much more pigmented, and they do have a ton of pigment, although that bright pink darkened a lot in the drying process. And the metallic I was using, it doesn't have a ton of sheen, so I'm a little disappointed by that. I still like the color scheme because it's kind of a nice neutral to balance the crazier colors, but it doesn't have a ton of sheen. So this is it dry. There are no cracks. It's got a nice kind of smooth, maybe a satin type finish to it. I like the cells that were created in here, but I think I did expect a little bit more from this paint. So let's move on to our next one. Alright, so on the left is the Blickrylic, and on the right is the one that we poured second with the Craftsmart. And I'm pretty impressed by the Craftsmart. It doesn't have some of the depth to the blues, which has always been a complaint of mine with Craftsmart paints, and in general just craft paints. Their dark blues aren't super great. There was also this stretching effect that happened on the edges, so it didn't keep a bunch of the paint and pigment there. But the cells are really good, the lacing is good, the color separation is good, and their gold paint at least stacks up similar to the Blickrylic. It's not great, it's not super shiny, but it has a similar sheen finish, and I also don't have any cracking on this one. But was there a difference between the one that I poured first accidentally without the liquitex and this one? Let's check that out. So here is the one that I poured without having any liquitex in the mixture for Craftsmart. That's the one that's on the left, and the one on the right was the one that had it, and I don't really think there's much of a change. Maybe a very slight amount of more lacing or maintaining cells? I don't know. Let me know. What do you think? I think if there is a difference, it was marginal. In general, I'm still just super impressed with how well the Craftsmart performed in this. Let me know which is your favorite painting out of the three. Have you tried a funnel pour? And if you did, what paints did you use? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to see more testing videos where I test out different variables for fluid painting, want to see any watercolor tutorials, or some other art supply testing, subscribe to my channel. Or if you just want to see some of the art that I create, it's really varied. You can follow me either at Lacey Walker Art or at Rebel Unicorn Crafts on Instagram, or Rebel Unicorn Crafts on TikTok, where I make some funny videos as well as some tool talk videos. And I hope that you have a magically creative day.